What is up, party people? It is so good to be talking to you. Welcome to the Highway with Kyle Shutt. I am your humble host. Back from tour. We did it. We did the whole Primus tour. It was insane. And to celebrate, I decided to turn the tables a little bit and to let y'all ask me questions for a change. That's right. It's an AMA with me this week. So we got a long list of questions that we're going to work through. But first thing, I just want to say thank you to everybody for listening. Thanks to everybody that came out to the shows. I am full of life again. Before we get to all that, though, we gotta say, if you like what you've been hearing on the program, go ahead and smash that subscribe button, hit that little follow tab, whatever you gotta do to make sure you don't miss a single episode. And if you want to go one step further and help keep these lights on, you can find us at patreon.com/thehighway. For a couple of bucks a month, you can help me keep this program running and even get yourself a shout out like Matt Heert, Julian Angen, and even Jesse Parks, who signed up for the guitar lesson tier, where you can get a hour-long guitar lesson from me once a month. You get a free podcast and learn how to shred like the gods. We also got to give some love to our sponsors, Heil Sound, because if you like the way I sound, it's because there's a Heil in front of me, baby. Now, I know I do things my way every week, but this really is going to be my way this time. I've got all your burning questions lined up, and I've got the answers to go with them. Let's do things my way.
The Highway.
All right, here we go. I have absolutely no idea what I'm getting myself into here. I just compiled all the questions, didn't read a single one, and I'm going in blind, which is how I operate best. So, yeah, let's get after it here. Boss Pog wants to know, would you collab with the Twitter homies? Well, I have before. If somebody just randomly asked me, hey, will you play a guitar solo on this song? I don't always do it. My rule is that if you ask me at the right time and I've had just enough beer and it's within my means to do something, I always say yes. I think that's good career advice anyway. Just always say yes when you get an offer and just figure it out later. I've had so many experiences that I would have never had if I wouldn't have just said yes from the get-go. So that's that one. And he also wants to know, do you prefer joints or blunts? Now, that's a fair question. Smoked a lot of joints in my day, smoked a lot of blunts. I do enjoy smoking blunts, but in these post-COVID days, a lot of the puff pass culture has passed, unfortunately. But I ain't afraid. I'm vaxxed up. And you can hit a blunt through a mask, right? I'm willing to try. Anyway, they also want to know, what song have y'all never played live that you want to? We actually performed pretty much every song that we ever wrote live, maybe with the exception of some of the used Future tracks. Most of the records that we made were made with the intention of being able to play those songs live. We would always book little mini tours on the way to the studio, just to work out the last minute kinks in the songs, see what works, what doesn't, things like that. And also, so we would hit the studio super road tight. You know, it's a great way to make a record. So the only record that we didn't do that with was Used Future, where we went in kind of half baked and just sort of created a lot of stuff on the spot. So I'm not sure that we ever played Brown Mountain live, but I'm not sure that we need to. You know, things like that. I always like playing the more rehearsed songs live and just watching the crowd go nuts. That's where I have the best time. All right, what do we got next here? Mr. Cole Trickle on Twitter says, my only question is, who farted? And it was probably me. Actually, that's not true. It probably wasn't me. You know why? Because I broke up with pizza on this tour. I know, which is like sacrilege, but pizza, you know, it's like your ex, where you have the best sex ever, you know, and you just keep going back, even though you know it's a terrible idea, and you're gonna feel like shit in the morning, and it's gonna ruin your life all over again. You just keep going back. I had to break it off. Sorry, pizza. It's I'm going to make some enemies here. Pizza isn't real food anyway. It's just bread and cheese. And you mix that with the amount of beer that I drink. And yeah, it's the next morning in the van isn't always the most fun for everyone. But it's way too much information there. Why did read this question. Let's see who's next. Dan Renzetti wants to know, how annoying is it when dudes tell you to play the older stuff and then also get mad when you don't play some new stuff too? That is a very good question, and that definitely came up on this tour. It's no surprise that a lot of people were taken aback by our change in direction with High Country, Low Country, and Used Future. After being in the band for, I guess it was like 15, 16 years at that time, we went on a journey together. We walked on the moon together. We did everything we could musically, and we wanted to push the boundaries of what that meant. And at the time, it didn't really seem that crazy. But once the pandemic kind of set in last year, and we were forced to sit there and reflect everything, especially, as we were already on hiatus, I went back and listened to all the Sword albums, front to back, in chronological order. And yeah, I was like, I get it. I now see, what other people saw. People that just casually dipped in and out every 2 years to just see what we were up to. I definitely see that there was a perceptible change in sound, but we did it with, intention, and just we meant it from our hearts, and so when some people didn't like that, well, we kind of took it personally. I did, at least. It should also be said that anytime I talk about the Sword, it is just very much my point of view. I'm only 25% of that machine, so any of my opinions about it are mine and mine alone. But whenever we got back together to do this tour, we decided to set the Wayback Machine for 2012, and we were only going to play the first 4 albums, all in the original tunings and everything. And it was so funny that we're finally ripping through Fire Lances of the Ancient Hypersepharians, and then people are just saying that, how come you're not playing Dream Thieves? I'm just like, fuck you! Where were you 5 years ago? I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. All right, who do we got up next? We got Paul Price wants to know, says, I'm dying to know if there's been any thoughts or conversations about our new album, either solo or The Sword. If not, any more Doomside. Yeah, I am definitely in the process of writing a second solo album right now. It's going to be way more balls to the wall, if you will. Nothing but bangers. I've had enough dynamics in my life lately. I'd like to just turn it up to 11 and let it rip. And as far as Doomside goes, hell, why not? I might just drop it on this episode. Stick around to the end of the episode, and let's make this the world premiere of the Doomside of the Moon version of Welcome to the Machine. We recorded it as the intro music for our tour that we did, and I had been meaning to finish out the rest of the Wish You Were Here album with Shine On You Crazy Diamond 1 through 9. Gonna do the whole thing, and then but we also did record Welcome to the Machine. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we did it. And nobody's ever heard it yet unless you came to see us on that tour. As far as the new Sword album goes, well, wouldn't we all like to know that? I ain't saying shit. I ain't spilling no beans there. I said ask me anything. That doesn't mean I have to answer everything. Wink, wink. Let's see. My good friend runs a label called Lint Music out of Australia. He released the Kyle Shutt solo covers album on cassette that you can get, and maybe I'll drop a few of those on my Bandcamp page. I have a couple of them that I've been giving out to friends and close acquaintances, but maybe we'll put some out there. Let's see here. They want to know any interviewee you were particularly nervous speaking to on this podcast. Absolutely. I mean, come on, like talking to Buzz Osborne. I had never met him before, so and Melvins was one of my favorite bands of all time, so I was definitely nervous about that one. I was also pretty nervous to speak to Mick Harris, who's the original drummer for Napalm Death. He's basically invented grindcore, and the man made history. And I was definitely a little bit nervous talking to him about that. But most of the people that I talked to on the program so far, at least, are people that I've met before or have a good rapport with. And it's a lot of fun making this podcast for you all to listen to and just hear me dork out with my friends and my heroes. One that some people might think I was nervous about, but I was not, was Dave Windorf, who from Monster Magnet, who's I've met before a few times, and is a very, very nice man, and he's also a very big Sword fan. So that was a real treat to get to learn that when I met him. I guess that would have been maybe like 10 years ago. Just a sweet guy, real sweet guy. But very nervous talking to Buzz, but he ended up being just fine, just peachy keen. Great conversation. And let's see. He also wants to know, similarly, any gig you've done where you knew someone was watching you and you felt pressure playing in front of. That's really funny because we just got off the Primus tour, and one of the last Sword show in Texas before we took the hiatus was in San Antonio. And check out this fucking lineup. It was the Sword, Living Colour, Clutch, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Primus, Nine Inch Nails. Just a crazy lineup. And it was basically all my childhood heroes right there that I'm sharing the stage with. But I look over at one point, and Les Claypool is just, front and center, just checking our show out. And I got to admit, it made me a little nervous. I definitely had to just put a blind spot up there and just pretend like like he wasn't standing there. And this was years before we even hit the road with Primus. And we eventually got to know him, and he turned out to be just a real sweetheart, and all the Primus camp is. And maybe one of those guys is going to be on the podcast pretty soon. Huh? We're going to have to keep an eye out. All right, let's see who we got up next. We got Skibo. Skibo wants to know, do you use the one knob amp when recording, and do you record using a cab or DI from the head? I always record using the cab, and I did use the one knob. I used that on High Country, as well as the Doom Side of the Moon record, and my solo album as well. So yes, I did. And I also have a 6 knob version of that amp that's basically the same thing, just a little bit more diverse. It's basically a 2-channel 3 knob version of it that has volume, gain, and tone split up into 2 channels. So it's a little more dynamic than the other amp. But yeah. And they also want to know, were any tracks, including the vocals, used in both High and Low Country? And was recording those albums a bigger challenge than originally thought? High Country, no. High Country was just a lot of fun. We were in a big studio that was 5 minutes from my house at the time, and I could just roll out of bed and literally 5 minutes later be in the studio making coffee, just rocking out all day long, having fun. Low Country was low pressure. We did the whole thing in Jimmy, our drummer's house, just doing bong hits and creating acoustic versions of these songs on the spot. At first, we were only going to do two songs. I think we were going to do Empty Temples and Seriously Mysterious. And then after we did those two, it didn't take that long. So we just thought, hey, let's just keep going. And we did use the original vocal tracks from High Country on the Low Country sessions. We just built the music around that. And it was a lot of fun. We actually were going to do an entirely different version of High Country as Low Country, where every single song was different. We were going to do all the heavy songs as acoustic tracks and all the mellow songs like heavy, and it didn't really work out, so we eventually kind of bailed on that plan and just went with the acoustic versions. The one thing that did survive was a version of Turn to Dust that we did as a super fast punk song that ended up on a split 7-inch with the Black Angels that was paired with a photography book by Sandy Carson. So that's one of the more rare Sword records. That if you can find the split that we did with Black Angels on a blue flexi disc that came in a photography book, that one's kind of hard to find. But yeah, long answer to a short question. But let's see, what else do we have here? Mark Irwin, what's up, Mark? He wants to know, you got to hold Lur's guitar that he got from Alex Lifeson. Are new textures and tones coursing through your body? Yes, they are. When you get to hold the guitar of a legend that's owned by another legend, yes, you actually do absorb some of that power, and I can feel it coursing through my body right now. Great question. Let's see. Moving on down the line here. Desmond wants to know, favorite Sabbath riff? This is an easy answer. Into the Void. The final riff that's played on the final song of Master of Reality. I just sing it for you right now. It really doesn't get better than that, if you ask me. If you're talking bang for your buck in a Sabbath song, that whole album is just crazy. Probably my favorite one. The Sword actually covered Master of Reality, the whole album, for Halloween one year. I think it was 2005, maybe. Those were the good old days, playing at the Whiskey Bar, downtown Austin. Man, a lot has happened since then. A lot has changed. All right, let's keep on moving down the line here. Oh, my friend Tim wants to know the best part of being back out on the road post COVID and hiatus. The best part is just playing shows again. I've said this before, but I will never take a show for granted ever again. Not that I did all that often, but when you do something for a living, sometimes you have some pretty strong opinions about how things go down. But after the hiatus and after the pandemic and everything, I don't care what I have to do. If I have to wrap my whole head in cloth, 23 hours a day, except for the time that I have to be on stage, whatever I have to do to play guitar and to just spread the happiness to all the fans that want to come out and brave all the conditions to get out there and rock with us. That's really all I care about right now. I just want to play shows. I love it. What's the worst part about being out on the road post-COVID? The worst part is that it's very inconvenient to travel across the states now. A lot of restaurants, dining rooms are closed. We're pretty much forced to eat on the road. Out in public and stuff like that. So there's no consistency between the states. There's no really protocol that you can count on. So thank God for the Primus catering every day. If it wasn't for catering at the Primus shows, we might not have eaten. So that was the worst part. It was just the inconvenience. And when can we inspect another tour? He wants to know. Soon. We're not going anywhere. We're happy to be back from this one, but maybe we're going to let the winter play out however it happens and then hit the road in the spring. No concrete plans yet, but you can definitely expect to see us out pretty soon. All right, moving down the line here. Dread Media wants to know, what's your favorite weird tuning? I really don't mess with weird tunings. But I will say that my favorite weird tuning to record with, it's called the Nashville tuning. It's hard to explain. It's just basically a funky tuning with a guitar, mostly strung with like high E and G strings, tuned in such a way that if you play over a track, like an acoustic track or something, it just kind of adds this little shimmer to it. You use the same chord shapes and everything like that. It's just a different open kind of tuning that just adds a little chorusy kind of shine to whatever you're trying to overdub, and that's a lot of fun. The Nashville tuning. They also want to know, what's your favorite horror movie? I'm a huge horror fan. I would say probably my favorite one is In the Mouth of Madness, starring Sam Neill, a John Carpenter movie from the 90s that I feel is a little underrated, but I don't know. How do you feel? Do you read Sutter Kane? Let's see. We got somebody else. Let's see. They want to know, I seen y'all with Croy and the Boys as a direct support act. I had the time of my life, but did y'all encounter any awkward crowds on that tour? Croy and the Boys are a great country band from here in Austin, Texas, and the Sword has always felt really strongly about, number one, bringing out great bands no matter what the genre is, but also creating diverse bills to where, it's not just 4 stoner bands on tour, that you have to sit through to get to the headliner. And we love country music. We've always been country. We're country boys, but bringing Croy and the Boys out was a lot of fun, and we did it all throughout the South. There were no awkward crowds on that tour. Everybody loved that band that opened for us. Everybody go check them out, Croy and the Boys. If we would have taken that tour to Boston or Minneapolis, maybe that would have been a bit of a different story, but I don't think so. I mean, anybody that likes good music is going to like, a good band, no matter if it's country or hip hop or anything. And so that I would take them out again in a heartbeat. They were great. And they also want to know, have you ever been surprised to find out that someone was a fan of the Sword? Maybe a celebrity or a huge band other than Metallica. This is a little hearsay, but I'm going to put it out there. A reliable source told me that Robert Downey Jr., his son plays music and is a big Sword fan, and apparently bought a bunch of Sword shirts for his dad. And apparently Robert Downey Jr. can be seen wearing Sword shirts around. So and apparently likes our music. I don't know if that's true or not, but hey, put some feelers out there. Robert, if you're listening, call me up. I'll send you some records. Let's see. Chris Chris Scalzillo wants to know, is the sword staying off hiatus, and what is your favorite song to play live? Yeah, we're back. Unless anything crazy happens, or unless one of us actually goes insane and needs some more time off, we are off hiatus. We're making plans. I'm not going to tell you what those plans are, or give you a timeline, but you can expect to see more of us. And the favorite song to play live, that's a great question. They're all a lot of fun. Lately, I've been having a lot of fun playing Chronomancer 2. Again, we hadn't played that in so long, and that one has just really been going off. But yeah, that one's fun. Let's see, moving on down, we got Rob here, the Herald of Galactus. He says, "Why have I been to 5+ sword shows and never seen or heard Lords live?" Because you weren't at the ones that we played it at. That's why. Next, I'm just kidding. No, we played Lords a lot back in the day. I was one of the ones that I kind of pinned the music for. I think the last time we played it would have been in El Paso. It was the last day of the Apocryphon tour. On the Apocryphon tour, we brought back pretty much every single song that we had ever played, except for Under the Boughs, for whatever reason. That one's kind of a drag. I wrote that one, so I can kind of say that. But back in those days, I was 19, 20, whatever, 21, whenever we were writing a lot of that stuff. And I've gotten a lot better at writing songs. And so a lot of those earlier ones that I had kind of helped write were like the chorus would be in a different key than the verse. And, just cause I thought I was being clever, but in hindsight, it's not as effective as I would hope. It did. I got better at it. Like a song like Tears of Fire that I wrote a healthy chunk of the music for kind of does that same thing, and it works a lot better than some of my earlier attempts. But ever since then, I've been more attentive to what keys the songs are in that I'm writing and stuff like that. So, long answer to a short question, but yeah. Let's see here. Ace McNasty, I like that name, wants to know, what was the thought process behind the sword moving from a more metal sound to a more classic rock sound on later albums? And were you happy with that change? I kind of talked about that earlier. But yeah, it was just, it was a very natural progression. We wanted to, whenever we first came out, we were sort of anomalous as far as popular heavy music was concerned. And anywhere that we went, there was always like a local death metal band that got added to the bill or something. But over the years, after like more than a decade of doing that, we started to notice that there was just a million sword sound-alikes, just like there was like, 5 stoner bands in every town now. And they were all kind of falling into the same little tropes and things like that. And we sort of wanted to show them that you don't have to sound this one particular way. You can make a dance pop song if you want to. You can make an acoustic song. We really wanted to push the boundaries of what stoner rock or stoner metal meant. And so you could say it was a conscious effort to do that. Whether or not it was successful is kind of up for debate. But yes, I am happy with that change. So that was that's the answer to that question. Let's see. Delco Detention wants to know, do you get free weed when on tour? And if so, can we open up for you guys? Hell yeah, we get free weed on tour. And, maybe if you just, keep submitting for the tours and it works out, you can open for us one day. No promises. Hell yeah, we get free weed on tour. We pay for it too, but we thank every single person that throws a nug in the tip jar or, throws a couple of blunts in my hand after the show. Whoever that guy was that gave me those blunts in Oklahoma City, if you're listening, thank you so much. Yes. Love getting free weed. The Sea Wave wants to know, y'all play D&D with Clutch. I bet Mr. Fallon would be an ace DM. You're right about that. I would listen to him DM a campaign any day, but we never played D&D with Clutch. Smoked a lot of weed with those guys. We played a lot of shows, drank a lot of beers, talked about cars a lot and things like that. But no, we never played D&D with them. That would be fun though. Let's see. Christopher Vretos wants to know, what's your favorite Sword album and why? And same question for individual songs. I don't know. My answer before the hiatus was always, the last album we made was always my favorite one because we always put our heart and soul into everything that we did. And it was always my favorite. But upon revisiting everything, over the pandemic and stuff, it was funny to me how every single one of our albums sounds different. We don't really, some people think that we have this classic era, but even between Age of Winters, Gods of the Earth, Warp Riders, Apocryphon, there's 4 very different sounds going on with each of those albums. I like elements of some. There's others that it's not that I dislike them, but it's just, there's some that I gravitate to more than others. I love Warp Riders just because I like Matt Bayless's production, but I also love Apocryphon because Jay Robbins really captured what we sound like as a live band. And there's a lot to be said for any sort of album, but it's not to say that I have a least favorite one at all, but yeah, there you go. Let's see. John Rambo wants to know, will the Sword ever cover Warren G. Regulate or Adele? No. We never will. I did. This will probably never happen, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. But I did think it would be fun to cover "Fight for Your Right to Party," Beastie Boys. And if we could do it to where each of the 3 of us up front could actually do the whole vocal cadence and everything, I think it would be a really fun song to try to pull off at a festival or something. Not record it or anything, but just it would have to be a perfect time and place. But I always thought that would be a really fun just the thing to do. I saw Cancer Bats cover "Sabotage" one time. It was probably the most badass cover song I've ever seen anybody attempt. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know what we're gonna cover next. We always like to cover fun stuff, so there's always gonna be something out there. And up next, we got Rambone Dice Clay. He wants to know, how is playing in front of 12 people in Michigan? Will you be coming back to Michigan soon? This is, I'm assuming, in reference to the Sterling Heights show that we just played with Primus. It was pissing rain all day, freezing out there, and the river behind the place apparently was going to flood. It was like a flood watch was going on, and so our set times got bumped up by about half an hour, and then they cut us by about 15 minutes. There, like he was saying, there was only 12 people there anyway, but we all had a great time. You can't act like an asshole just because the weather gets a little bad and your set gets cut short, just so that everybody can get out of there safely, before midnight, before the roads closed and before the rivers flood. There was one asshole that left the most ignorant comment that I've ever read ever. I normally don't dig into people that make stupid comments, but this guy was just like, how dare the Sword, chicken out and only play 30 minutes and go on early, like it's our choice. God, get over yourselves. Anyway, going down the line, my boy Jody Giordano, what's up, bud? He wants to know, how would you describe the moment when you stepped on stage for the first time in 3 years? And for those of you that don't know, the Sword's appearance at the Psycho Vegas festival that we just did, that was the first time that we had all joined together and had a rehearsal in 3 years, which is kind of mind-blowing to think about at the time. It's been a really rough 3 years, I'm not gonna lie. It's had its ups and downs and downs and downs, but when we got back together, the show itself wasn't the best one in the world. I've always said that the best way to get ready to play a show is just to play a show. You can practice 100 times, and that first show back is going to be nothing like any of those rehearsals were. So, sometimes you just got to knock the dust off in front of 3,000 people in a swimming pool. And that was the best feeling. It wasn't our best performance by any means, but it had to be done. And we definitely knocked the dust off. And the rest of that tour was absolutely phenomenal. So if anybody out there listening was at our Psycho Vegas set, thanks for sticking with us and hanging in there with the little 20-minute throw and go with terrible sound that we had. It was still a really good time, and I have no regrets. But let's see, who else is up here? Merglasky12 wants to know, is your solo on Hawks and Serpents split into 2 sections? The first to signify the hawk and the second to signify the serpent. Each part of the solo has its own vibe, and if so, I very much dig it. It's funny that you point that out. I never really made that connection when I was writing that song. The title Hawks and Serpents didn't even come until after the music was totally finished. The working title of that song was actually Hit the Streets. We like to come up with silly little working titles while we're making an album. But that guitar solo is one of my favorites, and I recorded it in 3 different sections. One section that was a double-tracked finger tap kind of solo, and then one that was a double tracked neck pickup kind of just more creamy, kind of different kind of shred. And I did that because I'm a huge, obviously we're all ZZ Top fans, and that was Billy, especially around the DeGuello era, was notorious for all of his solos having, 4 different sections and 4 different tones and amps and stuff like that. And that was sort of me wanting to experiment with that a little bit. So hope that answered your question. It was yes and no is the answer. But everybody wants to know when the new Sword album's coming out. And you know what? I already told you. I don't know. Is it even happening? I don't know. Let's see. Baron von Goulash wants to know, did you go fishing with Les? No, we didn't. But we smoked a lot of weed and had a really good time, just bullshitting backstage. And there was one particular show that we played in Cleveland where the river ran right behind the little pavilion amphitheater where we played, and a bunch of people came up on their kayaks and just hung out behind the stage and checked out the show for free. And afterwards, one of the promoter reps, this is so weird, had a full-on enormous telescope that he brought out and just started zooming in on planets. And so it was the Sword and Primus hanging out backstage, shooting the shit with people off the pier in the water on kayaks, and smoking weed and staring at Saturn and Jupiter and the moon. It was one of the more memorable nights that I've had on tour in a long, long time. That was so much fun. Let's see here. Al Bundy. I bet that's not your real name, but hey, it's the internet. Says, wants to know, I've always been curious about the earliest Sword jams. Where did you guys practice? What was the process like writing those first songs? And how much weed was smoked? Let me tell you, we smoked all the weed. I'm surprised that there's any weed left after those early days. We practiced actually in the same facility that we've been in for a very, very long time. I used to joke that if you walk inside of our old practice space, that it's not HD in there. Everything's all the sepia tone and fuzzy and low def for sure. But the process writing the first songs, it's no secret that JD wrote almost all of Age of Winters in the few years before the Sword even formed. And so we sort of hit the ground running in that regard, but it wasn't too long before we all started collaborating and writing songs together, like Sia Spears, Maid, Mother, and Crone, things like that. I could go on and on, but let's see here. All right, moving on down the line here. Harmony Corruption wants to know, caught you in indie this go-around, and then noticed you're still rocking the Reverend. Do you have other favorites other than your model? What other guitars have you found love for? Are there any that you just can't let go of from your past? That's a great question. I actually look at guitars like a tool. It's the tool that I use to do what I need to do, which is rock your face off. And so I actually don't have, have much personal attachment to guitars. I usually use them until I've gotten everything that I needed out of them, and then I move on to the next thing and the next sound. The reason I love my signature model is just because I was able to design it from the ground up with Joe Naylor and Ken Haas with Reverend Guitars. And it's a very, very versatile guitar. It's a tool that I can do everything that I need to with, considering the fact that the Sword had very many different sounds and styles over the years. I can really kind of do whatever I want with that guitar. But Reverend does make other really sick guitars. The Dirt Bike, the Reeves Gabrels model, the blue one with the little tremolo bar, is one of my favorites. That thing is just awesome. He also uses a Space Hawk, which is a great guitar. And I loved the Volcano, the V's, before they got slapped with a cease and desist, unlawfully, I might add, from Gibson. So, because Gibson sued, or threatened to sue Reverend, I decided to sell all my Les Pauls, and so I don't play Gibson anymore. So, hope that answers your question there. Let's see. Dusting Rune wants to know, what song were you most hyped to play live? Of all the older material that we brought back on this tour, I was really, really stoked to play Fire Lances of the Ancient Hypercepharians. It's a tongue twister there, but that one's just it's thrashy, it's poppy, it fucking rocks. It's got a really fun solo in it, and it just fucking slaps everyone in the face whenever you play it live. I absolutely love that song. All right, we got my boy Brett Solferino. What's up, Brett? He wants to know, would you rather go canoeing with someone pitching a pyramid scheme or go hiking with a flat earther? well, considering the fact that I am a flat earther and am currently getting my pyramid scheme pitch ready to go, I feel very unqualified to answer this question. I'm kidding. Jokes. Let's see. Sammy Psychedelinaut, that's a mouthful, well, wants to know, what was the decision-making process for the set lists? We just wanted to be as brutal as possible. We had kind of spent years shying away from much of our heavier material, and it was a real pleasure bringing back songs like Tears of Fire or Chronomancer 2. Yeah, that was it. Veil of Ice is another one of my favorites. And let's see, someone wants to know, what did you crack open to celebrate? And I know you probably think that I'm going to say whiskey. We did drink a hell of a lot of whiskey on this tour, but on the very last day of tour, it was very, very sweet of Primus to actually surprise us with a going away party, and they gave us each a bottle of champagne from the Claypool Cellars. And I haven't had a chance to crack it open yet because I'm still in the process of getting home and unpacking and everything. But as soon as I get the chance to, I'm going to chill that bad boy down and pop that cork and just really enjoy the fact that we were able to do this tour. I've said it before, but again, I'm so grateful that we were actually able to make this thing happen. Let's see here. What's trashier, Whippets or Poppers? I've always said that drugs aren't a contest, but I have done my fair share of Whippets and Poppers, and it's all trash. You're just huffing gas at that point, man. I don't recommend either. Yeah, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but yeah, don't do drugs, kids, especially those kinds of drugs. Good Lord. Would you rather live in a Mad Max world or Water World? If I had the gills, I would pick Water World, but I think only Kevin Costner had the gills. Mad Max would be sick as long as I get to play guitar on the amp truck. I don't think that's too much to ask. I think that thing is for sale. I think somewhere on the internet you can actually buy that ridiculous amp truck from Mad Max. Let's see. The roughest set you've ever had, and what's the greatest? The roughest set was probably one time in New Orleans when I accidentally drank 2 of the Everclear hand grenades instead of the vodka ones. And yeah, during the little guitar break in Horn Goddess, I very specifically remember absolutely totally beefing that. I think I blacked out that night and woke up at the Hustler Club mid-lap dance. And it was like 5 minutes till our set, and our tour manager was calling me on my phone, being like, "Where are you? We go on in 5 minutes." So I, in a drunken haze, ran down Bourbon Street, made it to the stage just in time to fuck everything up. I woke up the next morning and immediately apologized to everyone. I knew that was my only respite that was going to save me from getting kicked out of the band. They wouldn't kick me out, but I didn't want to have a talking to. I wanted to own my problem, because I do enjoy drinking and I do enjoy smoking and stuff like that, but I also think it's very important not to make my problems become other people's problems, and that was unfortunately one night that I failed at that. But they also want to know, what's the greatest set you've had? And we've had many good ones, but especially on this last tour, when we headlined the Music Hall of Williamsburg in Brooklyn. That show was just magic. I didn't miss a note. We were just on fire, and that was a hell of a way to return to New York City. I love New York, and that was great. Let's see. Who wins in a fight, Chewbacca or Bigfoot? I thought Chewbacca was a Bigfoot. Next. If you could soundtrack a remake of any movie, what movie would it be? The new Dune, duh. I mean, Toto did a great job on the original, the David Lynch Dune soundtrack. It would be fun to recreate some of that, and also to just make some really fun, frantic metal. We always said that Warp Riders is like a soundtrack to a movie that doesn't exist, and so if you can imagine those kinds of textures in a sci-fi epic movie soundtrack, I think that's probably what we would end up doing. But it looks like this is it. They say never meet your heroes. And do you have a story that proves that saying wrong? I've said many times on this podcast, always meet your heroes. You never know when they're going to, accidentally whip their dick out, or, cut you a piece of banana bread, or give you a bottle of champagne. And I even if it's a negative experience, I firmly believe that you should always meet your heroes. And yeah, that's the long and short of it. I don't really see why you wouldn't want to meet your heroes. I think it's enlightening to see what goes behind all that beautiful art. I do try to separate the artist from the art in most cases, but just meet them. I mean, come on. Like, there's a bunch that I haven't met. I've never met Tony Iommi. We did have one opportunity that we were in the same room together, but I don't like to be that guy that just elbows everyone out of the way and says, "Hi, my name's Kyle, and you're one of my biggest heroes." I like for those meetings to happen a little more naturally. It tends to mean more. But what are you gonna do? Oh, and let's see here. It looks like I forgot a couple that were hiding here in the comments. My boy Josh McClain wants to know if you could play on any two-piece band from Memphis's record, who would it be? I wonder who he's talking about. He's probably talking about his own band, Heels. If y'all haven't heard this band, Heels, they're just fantastic. Go check them out. Great punk band. They probably don't want to be called punk. I don't know. I think they're fantastic. Just two-piece rock and roll band. And I may or may not be playing on their new record coming up soon. You're going to have to buy a copy of it to find out. And last but certainly not least, Jimmy Vela wants to know, you still smoke? Jimmy, I still smoke. I don't know if many of you know this, but Jimmy Vela, the drummer of The Sword, he actually invented smoking weed. He popularized it. He legitimized it. And he's still in the process of legalizing it. So thank you, Jimmy, for all your hard work getting weed out to the masses. And thank you all for participating in this AMA episode of this podcast. It's a little bit different. I'll try not to drop too many of these on y'all, but it was just the questions started piling up and I couldn't help myself. So I hope y'all had a good time. And as promised, I'm going to drop the world premiere right here of the latest Doom Side of the Moon recording. Welcome to the Machine. Thank you all so much.
Thanks so much for tuning into The Highway this week. A big shout out to Reverend Guitars, Railhammer Pickups, and Earthquaker Devices. If you liked what you heard, you can follow where you can follow, subscribe where you can subscribe, and if you want to go one step further, you can support us on Patreon at The Highway with Kyle Shutt. For a few bucks a month, you can help us keep this party going, get early access to next week's episode, and even get yourself a shout out.